Jake Morrison stood in front of the big window on the ship's bridge. He watched the stars move slowly past as their ship traveled through space. The New Horizon was a good ship, and Jake felt proud to serve on it as a lieutenant. He had been in space for 3 years now, but he still loved looking at the endless black with its tiny lights. "Sir, we have something on the scanner," called out Amy Chen from her station. She was the communications officer, and one of the smartest people Jake knew. Her voice sounded worried. Captain Lisa Rodriguez walked over to Amy's station. Lisa was a strong leader who never got scared even when things looked bad. "What do you see, Amy?" "There's a ship out there. It's big, Captain. Really big. And it's not like anything in our records." Jake felt his heart beat faster. First contact with aliens was something every space officer dreamed about. But it was also scary. No one knew what aliens might be like or what they might want. "Can you tell if they're friendly?" Captain Rodriguez asked. "I don't know, Captain. They're not shooting at us, but they're also not answering our messages." Jake walked over to look at Amy's screen. The alien ship looked like a giant crystal floating in space. It was beautiful, with lights moving across its surface like waves. The lights changed colors from blue to green to purple and back again. "It's pretty," said Kelly Brooks, who was standing nearby. Kelly was an ensign, newer to space travel than Jake. She had blonde hair and kind eyes that always seemed to smile. "Pretty things can still be dangerous," Jake said, but he smiled at her. Kelly had been trying to talk to him more lately, and he liked her attention. Suddenly, the lights on their ship started to flicker. Everyone looked around, worried. Then a voice spoke, but not through their speakers. The voice seemed to come from inside Jake's head. "Do not fear. We come with peaceful intentions." Jake looked at the others. From their faces, he could tell they heard the voice too. "This is Captain Rodriguez of the Earthship New Horizon. Who are you?" "I am called Zara in your language. I speak for my people, the Etherians. We wish to meet with you." Before anyone could answer, a bright light filled the bridge. When the light faded, someone new stood in the middle of the room. Jake's mouth fell open. The alien looked like a woman, but not quite human. Her skin seemed to glow from inside, and sometimes Jake could see through her a little bit. Her hair moved like it was underwater, even though there was no wind. Her eyes were the strangest part. They looked deep, like looking into space itself. "I am Zara," she said. Her voice was soft and musical, but Jake still heard it in his mind more than with his ears. Captain Rodriguez stepped forward. "Welcome aboard our ship. I'm Captain Rodriguez. These are my officers." Zara looked around the bridge, her strange eyes stopping on each person. When she looked at Jake, he felt something weird happen. It was like a warm feeling in his chest, but also like someone was looking at his thoughts. "You are Jake Morrison," Zara said, still looking at him. "Yes, ma'am," Jake answered. He wondered how she knew his name. "Your mind is different," Zara said. "Interesting." Jake didn't know what to say to that. He looked at Captain Rodriguez for help. "Perhaps we should move this meeting to a more comfortable place," the captain said. "Would you like to join us for dinner? We can talk about our peoples and maybe become friends." Zara smiled, and when she did, her whole body seemed to shine brighter. "Yes, I would like that very much." A few hours later, they all sat in the ship's dining room. The cooks had made their best food, and everyone was trying to be polite and friendly. Zara could eat human food, though she only took small bites. "Tell us about your people," Captain Rodriguez said. "We are old," Zara answered. "We have traveled among the stars for thousands of your years. We live differently than you do." "How so?" asked Dr. Maria Santos, the ship's doctor. "We do not age like you. We do not die easily, and we do not connect with others the way you do." Jake didn't understand what she meant by that last part, but before he could ask, Amy Chen spoke up. "Jake, could you pass the salt?" As Jake reached for the salt, he noticed Zara watching him very carefully. When Amy smiled and thanked him, Zara's eyes seemed to get darker. The temperature in the room dropped a little, and Amy shivered. "Are you cold?" Jake asked Amy. "A little," Amy said, but she looked confused. "I think I'll go get a sweater." After Amy left, Zara seemed to relax again. The room got warmer. "Your friend is wise to leave," Zara said quietly. "What do you mean?" Jake asked. Zara looked at him with those deep eyes. "Some connections are dangerous, Jake Morrison. Some connections change everything." Jake felt that warm feeling in his chest again, but this time it made him nervous instead of happy. Something was happening, something he didn't understand yet, but he could tell his life was about to become very different. As the evening went on, Jake noticed more strange things. Every time someone talked to him, Zara watched them carefully. When Kelly Brooks laughed at one of his jokes, Zara's form became more solid, less see-through. When Dr. Santos asked him about his health, the lights flickered. By the time dinner ended, Jake had a bad feeling in his stomach. Zara was beautiful and seemed nice, but there was something about the way she looked at him that made him uncomfortable. It was like she thought he belonged to her, even though they had just met. "Thank you for the meal," Zara said as she stood up. "I will return tomorrow to continue our talks." "Of course," Captain Rodriguez said. "We look forward to learning more about your people." Zara looked at Jake one more time before she disappeared in another flash of light. "Well, that was interesting," Kelly said after Zara was gone. "Yeah," Jake said, but he wasn't sure if interesting was the right word. He was starting to think dangerous might be better. That night, Jake lay in his bed and stared at the ceiling. He kept thinking about Zara's eyes and the way she said his name. He had a feeling that meeting her was going to change his life, but he wasn't sure if it would be for the better. Jake woke up the next morning feeling tired. He had strange dreams all night about floating in space and hearing someone call his name. When he got to the bridge, he found Captain Rodriguez talking quietly with Dr. Santos. "Good morning, Lieutenant," the captain said when she saw him. "How did you sleep?" "Not very well," Jake admitted. "I kept having weird dreams." Dr. Santos looked at him with concern. "What kind of dreams?" Before Jake could answer, Amy Chen turned around from her station. She looked pale and worried. "Captain, I had the strangest night. I kept feeling like someone was watching me, and I had these dreams about being lost in a dark place." "I had bad dreams too," said Kelly Brooks as she walked onto the bridge. "Really scary ones. I've never had nightmares like that before." Jake felt a cold feeling in his stomach. "When did these dreams start?" "Right after dinner last night," Amy said. "Same here," Kelly added. Captain Rodriguez and Dr. Santos looked at each other. Jake could tell they were thinking the same thing he was. This had something to do with Zara. "Captain," Amy called out, "I'm getting a message from the alien ship. Zara wants to meet with Lieutenant Morrison alone." Jake's heart started beating faster. "Should I go?" "I don't think that's a good idea," Dr. Santos said quickly. But Captain Rodriguez thought for a moment. "We need to understand what's happening. Jake, you'll meet with her, but in the conference room with security nearby, and Dr. Santos will be monitoring from the next room." An hour later, Jake sat alone in the conference room waiting. The light suddenly dimmed and Zara appeared in the same bright flash as before. Today she looked more solid, more real than yesterday. "Hello, Jake Morrison," she said, sitting down across from him. Her voice was softer when they were alone. "Hello, Zara. You wanted to talk to me?" "Yes, there are things you need to understand about my people, about what is happening between us." Jake leaned back in his chair. "What do you mean?" Zara was quiet for a moment, looking down at her hands. "My people do not live like yours. We do not have bodies the same way you do. We are more spirit than flesh. I don't understand. When my people want to have children, we do not touch bodies like humans do. We join our minds, our souls. We become one being for a time, and from that joining, new life comes." Jake felt uncomfortable talking about this, but he knew it was important. "Okay, what does that have to do with me?" Zara looked up at him and her eyes seemed sadder than before. "I have lived for over 300 of your years, Jake. In all that time, I have never found another Etherian whose mind could join with mine. I was beginning to think I would always be alone." "That sounds lonely," Jake said, and he meant it. It was. "But then I met you and your mind. It calls to mine in a way no other ever has. Not even my own people." Jake started to understand, and he didn't like where this was going. "Zara, I'm human." "I'm not like you." "No, you are not, and that is the problem." Zara's form flickered like a candle in the wind. "Your people need physical closeness to make the bonds of love. You need touch, you need your bodies to join. I cannot give you that. My people do not have physical love the way yours do." "Then why are you telling me this?" "Because even though I cannot love you the way your body needs, I cannot bear the thought of anyone else doing so either." Jake felt like ice water was running through his veins. "What do you mean?" "Your mind calls to mind, Jake Morrison. And when an Etherian finds such a connection, we become protective, possessive. It is not something we choose. It simply is." As if to prove her point, the door to the conference room opened and Kelly Brooks walked in. "Sorry to interrupt," Kelly said with a smile. "I just wanted to see if Jake needed anything." The moment Kelly spoke, Zara's form became hard and sharp. The temperature in the room dropped so fast that Jake could see his breath. Kelly stopped smiling and took a step backward. I think I made a mistake, Kelly said, her voice shaking. I should go. Kelly turned and almost ran from the room. Jake watched her go, then turned back to Zara, who was slowly becoming transparent again. Did you do that to her? Jake asked. I did not mean to, but yes. When other humans get too close to you, especially females, my nature responds. I cannot control it any more than you can control your heartbeat. Jake stood up, angry now. You can't just scare people away from me. These are my friends, my crewmates. I know, and I am sorry. But this is what happens when an Etherian finds their match. We do not share. But you said you can't give me what I need as a human. That is correct. So you're saying I can never be happy with you, but I can't be happy with anyone else either. Zara looked down again. I told you this was a problem. Jake sat back down, feeling like the weight of the world was on his shoulders. How long does this last? For my people, forever. Once we bond, even partially, it does not end. And what if I just leave? What if I transfer to another ship? Distance does not matter. Once I have sensed your mind, I will always know where you are. And any human who tries to get close to you will feel my presence. Jake put his head in his hands. This is crazy. You're telling me my life is basically over because we met? I am telling you that both our lives are now changed forever. They sat in silence for several minutes. Finally, Jake looked up at her. Is there anything that can be done? I do not know. My people have never encountered this situation before. We have never formed bonds with other species. What about your leaders? Can they help? They would likely say that you should be honored. To be chosen by an Etherian is considered a great gift among my people. But I didn't choose this. No, you did not. And that is very human of you to say. What do you mean? My people believe that some things are meant to be, that we do not always get to choose our fate. But humans, you fight against fate. You try to make your own choices even when the universe says no. Jake thought about that. Maybe that's what makes us different. Perhaps your mind resists my influence in ways that fascinate me. Most beings simply accept what an Etherian tells them. But you question, you fight back. Is that why you're drawn to me? Partly, but also because your mind has something mine lacks. You can be connected to someone and still remain yourself. My people lose themselves when we bond. We become one being. But you could stay Jake Morrison even while being connected to me. Could stay? Does that mean there's a choice? Zara was quiet for a long time. I do not know. I have never tried to resist the bonding process before. I have never wanted to. And now I begin to understand why your people value choice so much. To want something you cannot have. It is painful. But to take something someone does not freely give, that is worse. Jake felt a little hope for the first time since the conversation started. So you're saying you might be willing to fight this connection? I am saying that being around humans is teaching me new things about what love means. Your kind loves differently than mine. Perhaps better. How so? You choose to love. You work at it. You sacrifice for it. My people simply bond when we find compatibility. There is no choice, no effort, no sacrifice. Perhaps that makes it less meaningful. Jake reached across the table like he was going to touch her hand, then stopped himself. Zara, I want to help you understand. But you have to help me too. You have to try to control whatever it is that scares people away from me. I will try. But Jake Morrison, you must understand, fighting my nature may not be possible. And if I fail, everyone you care about will suffer for it. As Zara disappeared in her flash of light, Jake sat alone in the conference room. He thought about Kelly's scared face and Amy's nightmares. He thought about spending the rest of his life alone because an alien found his mind interesting. But he also thought about what Zara had said about choice and sacrifice. Maybe there was a way to fix this. Maybe humans could find an answer that Etherians couldn't see. Jake stood up and walked toward the door. He had work to do. Word spread quickly through the New Horizon that something was wrong. Jake noticed it first when he walked into the cafeteria for lunch. People who used to smile and wave at him now looked away. Conversation stopped when he sat down at tables. Hey Jake, said Danny Walsh, the chief engineer. Danny was one of the few people who still talked to him normally. How are you holding up? Not great, Jake admitted. People are avoiding me like I have some kind of disease. Can you blame them? Half the crew had nightmares last night. Amy Chen couldn't even come to work this morning. She's in the medical bay. Jake felt terrible. Is she okay? Dr. Santos says she's having panic attacks. Started right after she tried to talk to you yesterday. Jake pushed his food around his plate. He wasn't hungry anymore. I never wanted any of this to happen. I know you didn't, but we need to figure out what to do about it. Before Jake could answer, Kelly Brooks walked into the cafeteria. She saw Jake and started walking toward him, but then she stopped suddenly. Her face went white and she turned around and walked quickly away. Did you see that? Danny asked. Yeah. This is getting worse. That afternoon, Jake went to see Dr. Santos in her office. Maria Santos had been the ship's psychologist for 5 years, and Jake trusted her more than almost anyone. Sit down, Jake, she said, but she sounded different than usual. Her voice was tight, worried. Dr. Santos, I need help. This thing with Zara is affecting everyone around me. I know. I've been thinking about it all morning. She started to reach for her notepad, but her hand stopped halfway there. Her eyes went wide and she looked around the room like she was searching for something. Doctor? Are you okay? She's here, Maria whispered. I can feel her watching us. The lights in the office started to flicker. Maria's computer screen went black, then filled with strange symbols that moved like living things. Dr. Santos, talk to me. I can't touch you, Jake. Every time I try to reach out, I feel this terrible fear, like something is going to hurt me if I get too close to you. Jake stood up quickly. I'm sorry. I'll leave. No, wait. Maria took a deep breath and tried to calm down. This isn't your fault. But we need to understand what we're dealing with. That alien is claiming you somehow, and it's affecting everyone who tries to get close. Zara says she can't control it. Maybe she can't. But that doesn't make it any less dangerous. As Jake left Dr. Santos's office, he felt more alone than he ever had in his life. He walked through the ship's corridors and people stepped aside to let him pass. Some of them looked scared. Others looked angry. That evening, Captain Rodriguez called an emergency meeting in the main conference room. Jake sat at one end of the long table and everyone else sat as far away from him as possible. We have a problem, the captain began. The alien ambassadors. Attachment to Lieutenant Morrison is causing serious issues for the crew. Dr. Santos has treated 6 people today for anxiety attacks. 3 officers have requested transfers to other ships. Captain, said Commander Price, the first officer, maybe we should consider granting those transfer requests. And what about Morrison? Asked Chief Walsh. Are we going to transfer him too? Where would I go? Jake asked quietly. Zara says distance doesn't matter. She'll always know where I am. Maybe that's not our problem, said Lieutenant Harper from security. Maybe we just need to get him off this ship so the rest of us can do our jobs. Jake felt like he'd been punched in the stomach. These were people he'd worked with for years, people he thought were his friends. That's enough, Captain Rodriguez said firmly. Morrison didn't ask for this. We don't abandon our people. But what's the alternative? Commander Price asked. We can't function like this. The crew is terrified. I've been thinking about that, said Danny Walsh. What if we could find a way to block whatever signal Zara is using to track Jake? If we could hide him from her somehow, maybe the effect would stop. Is that possible? The captain asked. I don't know. But it's worth trying. I've been studying the sensor data from when she appears and disappears. There's definitely some kind of energy field involved. Jake felt a tiny bit of hope. What would you need to do? I'd need to run some tests. Scan you while Zara is nearby. See what kind of energy she's putting out. Then maybe I can build something to block it. That sounds dangerous, Dr. Santos said. Everything about this situation is dangerous, Danny replied. But sitting here doing nothing isn't working. Captain Rodriguez thought for a moment. All right, we'll try it. But I want full safety protocols. If anyone is in danger, we stop immediately. After the meeting, Jake walked back to his quarters feeling a little better. Maybe there was a solution after all. But as he turned the corner, he found Amy Chen waiting by his door. Amy, what are you doing here? Are you feeling better? Amy looked nervous, but she was trying to be brave. I wanted to apologize. I've been avoiding you, and that's not fair. This isn't your fault. You don't need to apologize. I understand why people are scared, but that's just it. I'm not scared of you. I'm scared of something else. Something that watches from the shadows when I try to talk to you. As if her words had summoned it, the corridor suddenly got colder. The lights dimmed, and both Jake and Amy could feel a presence nearby. She's here, Amy whispered. Jake looked around, but he couldn't see Zara anywhere. Where? I don't know. but I can feel her anger. She doesn't like me being here. Amy started shaking, not from cold, but from fear. I have to go. I'm sorry, Jake. I want to be your friend, but I can't fight this feeling. She hurried away, leaving Jake alone in the dark corridor. As soon as Amy was gone, the lights came back to normal and the air got warmer. Zara, Jake said to the empty hallway. I know you're there. We need to talk. The air in front of him shimmered and Zara appeared. She looked sad and tired. I did not mean to frighten your friend, she said. But you did frighten her, just like you frightened everyone else on this ship. I know. I am trying to control it, but it is difficult. When I sense other humans getting close to you, especially females, my instincts take over. What instincts? Protection, possession, the need to keep what is mine safe from others. But I'm not yours, Zara. We barely know each other. My mind knows that. But my heart does not understand the difference. Jake felt sorry for her, but he was also frustrated. There has to be a way to fix this. Perhaps. Your engineer wishes to study me to find a way to block our connection. You know about that? I know many things about what happens on your ship. Will you let him try? Will you let him try? Zara was quiet for a long moment. It will cause me great pain to have our connection blocked, even temporarily. But if it is what you wish, I wish I could have my life back. I wish my friends didn't have to be afraid. I wish we could find a way to be friends without all this other stuff. Friends, Zara repeated the word like she was tasting something new. My people do not have friends the way humans do. We have bonds or we have nothing. Maybe that's something you could learn from us, perhaps. Your species continues to surprise me with new ideas. So you'll help Danny with his experiments? Yes, but Jake Morrison, you should know that if his plan works, you may lose something too. What do you mean? The connection between us. It is not entirely unpleasant for you, is it? Sometimes when you are alone, you feel a warmth in your chest. Sometimes you hear my voice in your dreams, and it comforts you. Jake realized she was right. Even though he hated what the connection was doing to everyone around him, there was a part of him that enjoyed feeling connected to someone so deeply. That doesn't matter, he said finally. The happiness of one person isn't worth the fear of everyone else. That is a very human thing to say, Zara observed. My people would choose their own happiness first. Maybe that's why we're different. Yes, maybe it is. Zara began to fade away. But before she disappeared completely, she said one more thing. Your engineer may succeed in blocking our connection temporarily. But be warned, the forces that bind us are stronger than any technology. What cannot be stopped may simply find another way. Jake stood alone in the corridor, thinking about her words. He hoped Danny's plan would work, but he had a feeling that nothing about this situation was going to be simple. Danny Walsh had been working in the engineering bay for 3 days straight. His desk was covered with papers, computer tablets, and pieces of electronic equipment. Jake had never seen the chief engineer look so focused. How's it going, Danny? Jake asked as he entered the engineering section. I think I might have something, Danny said without looking up from his work. But I need to test it, and that means I need you and Zara in the same room while I take measurements. Jake felt nervous about that idea. Is it safe? Probably not. But staying the way we are isn't safe either. Danny finally looked up. He had dark circles under his eyes from not sleeping. Jake, I've been thinking about what Zara said. About energy fields and psychic connections. What if it's not magic at all? What if it's just science we don't understand yet? What do you mean? Well, your brain produces electrical signals, right? And Zara's people are partly energy beings. Maybe when she bonds with someone, she's actually syncing up with their brain waves. If that's true, then maybe I can build something to disrupt that sync. Danny showed Jake a small device that looked like a hearing aid. This is a quantum field generator. It's designed to create interference patterns that should scramble any external energy trying to connect with your brain. Will it hurt? I don't think so, but I won't know for sure until we test it. Jake picked up the device. It was surprisingly light. When do we try it? How about now? I've already asked Captain Rodriguez to set up a controlled meeting with Zara. An hour later, Jake sat in the conference room wearing Danny's device. It buzzed quietly in his ear, but it didn't hurt. Danny was in the next room watching his instruments, and Dr. Santos was monitoring Jake's vital signs. Okay, Jake, Captain Rodriguez said through the intercom. We're going to ask Zara to come now. Are you ready? As ready as I can be. The lights dimmed and Zara appeared in her usual flash of light. But something was different. She looked confused and her form kept flickering like a broken hologram. "Jake," she said, and her voice sounded far away. "Where are you? I can sense you, but I cannot reach you." Jake felt strange too. The warm feeling in his chest that he'd gotten used to was gone. He felt empty, lonely in a way he hadn't expected. "I'm right here, Zara." "No, you are here in body, but your mind, it is hidden from me." She looked around the room like she was searching for something. "What have you done?" "We're testing something, to see if we can block the connection between us." Zara's eyes went wide. "Remove it." "Remove it now? Why? What's wrong? I cannot feel you. For the first time in weeks, I cannot sense your thoughts, your emotions. It is like being blind and deaf at the same time." Jake could see that she was in pain, but he also noticed something else. For the first time since they'd met, he felt like himself again. The constant awareness of her presence was gone. "Danny," Jake said to the intercom. "It's working. I can't feel her in my mind anymore." "Great. Jake, try walking around the room. See if the effect holds." Jake stood up and walked to the other side of the room. Zara turned to follow him, but her movements were slow and uncertain. "I can see you, but I cannot sense you," she said. "This is unpleasant. I'm sorry." "Zara, but we had to try something." Through the intercom, Danny's excited voice came through. "Jake, all the energy readings around you have dropped to normal levels. Whatever field she was projecting is being blocked completely. Does that mean the crew will be safe now? Let's find out. Captain, could you ask someone to come to the conference room?" A few minutes later, Amy Chen walked in. She looked nervous, but not terrified like before. "Hi, Jake," she said with a small smile. "How are you feeling?" "Better, much better. Are you okay being here?" "Yeah, actually. I don't feel that horrible fear anymore." Amy looked at Zara curiously. "She looks different too, less intense." Jake felt hope growing in his chest. Maybe they had solved the problem after all. But then Zara spoke, and her voice was full of pain. "Please, make it stop. The disconnection. It hurts more than you can imagine." Jake looked at her and felt guilty. She was clearly suffering, and it was because of the device he was wearing. "Danny, how long can I wear this thing?" "The battery will last about 6 hours. But Jake, there's something else. The device is putting out a lot of energy. If you wear it too long, it might damage your brain." Jake's hope started to fade. "How long is too long?" "I don't know. Maybe a few hours at a time, maybe less." Captain Rodriguez's voice came through the intercom. "That's not a permanent solution, then. We need something better." Suddenly, the device in Jake's ear started making a high-pitched whining sound. The buzzing got louder and more painful. "Danny, something's wrong," Jake said, reaching up to touch his ear. "The device is overloading." "Jake, you need to take it off now." But before Jake could remove the device, Zara's form suddenly became solid and bright. Her eyes were no longer sad, they were angry. "You dare try to sever what the universe itself has joined?" she said, and her voice made the walls of the conference room shake. The device in Jake's ear sparked and went dead. Immediately, the warm feeling came rushing back into his chest, stronger than ever before. Jake could feel Zara's anger, her pain, her relief at being connected to him again. "Your device does not hide him from me," Zara said, looking directly at the camera that Danny was watching through. "It merely causes us both pain." "You are torturing us." Amy Chen suddenly stepped backward, her face pale again. "I have to go. I'm sorry, I have to go right now." She ran from the room, and Jake knew that whatever progress they'd made was gone. "Zara, please," Jake said. "We're just trying to find a way for everyone to be safe." "Safe," she repeated, and her anger started to fade. "Yes, I understand. But your solution causes more pain than it prevents." Danny's voice came through the intercom, sounding defeated. The device burned out. Something about her energy field overloaded the circuits. "I could build a stronger one, but it would be dangerous for Jake to wear." "How dangerous?" Jake asked. "It might kill you." Jake sat down heavily in his chair. Every solution they tried seemed to make things worse. "There has to be another way," he said. Zara looked at him with those deep eyes. "Perhaps there is, but it would require something my people have never attempted before." "What?" "Choice. Your people choose who to love and who to let go. My people simply bond when we find compatibility. But what if I could learn to choose as humans do? What does that mean?" "It means I would have to fight against my own nature. I would have to choose to let you go, even though every part of my being tells me not to." Jake felt a mix of hope and sadness. Could you do that? I do not know. But watching your engineer's attempts has taught me something. Your people do not simply accept what they are given. You fight to change your circumstances. Perhaps it is time I learned to do the same. And if you can't? Zara was quiet for a long moment. Then we will both be trapped forever. You will live alone because no one can get close to you. And I will live with the knowledge that I am the cause of your isolation. That's not much of a choice. No. But it is the only choice we have. As Zara began to fade away, she said one final thing. Tomorrow I will try to do something no Etherian has ever done before. I will try to choose love over possession. If I succeed, you will be free. If I fail... She disappeared before finishing the sentence, leaving Jake alone with his thoughts and the weight of what might come next. Jake couldn't sleep that night. He kept thinking about what Zara had said about choosing love over possession. He had seen the pain in her eyes when Danny's device blocked their connection, but he had also seen how it had freed everyone else from fear. The next morning, Jake made a decision. He asked Captain Rodriguez to set up one final meeting with Zara, but this time in the observation deck where they could see Earth through the big windows. Are you sure about this, Jake? Captain Rodriguez asked. Yesterday didn't go very well. I have an idea. Something Zara said made me think. She's trying to learn human emotions, but maybe I need to help her understand what those emotions really mean. What do you have in mind? I'm going to tell her something that might hurt her feelings. But sometimes the truth hurts before it helps. An hour later, Jake stood alone in the observation deck looking out at the blue and white planet below. Earth looked so peaceful from space, so small and beautiful. It reminded him of why he had joined the space service in the first place. The lights dimmed and Zara appeared beside him. Today she looked more solid than usual, but also tired. You wanted to see me, she said. Yes, I want to talk to you about love. I do not think I understand love the way your people do. That's what I want to talk about. Jake turned to face her. Zara, what you feel for me isn't love. It's something else. Her form flickered with surprise. What do you mean? Love means wanting someone to be happy, even if their happiness doesn't include you. Love means caring more about what's good for them than what's good for you. But I do want you to be happy. No, you want me to be yours. That's different. Zara looked hurt, but Jake continued. When Kelly or Amy try to talk to me, you scare them away. When Dr. Santos tries to help me, you make her afraid. You're not protecting me from harm. You're protecting your claim on me. I do not mean to. I know you don't mean to, but that's what's happening. Jake looked back out at Earth. Do you see that planet down there? Yes, that's where I come from. There are billions of people down there, all living their own lives, making their own choices. Some of them love each other, some of them don't. But the ones who really love each other, they choose to be together every day. They work at it. They sacrifice for each other. I would sacrifice for you. Would you? Would you sacrifice this connection between us if it meant I could be happy? Zara was quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, that would be the end of me. Without this connection, I would be alone forever. And that's the difference between love and possession. Real love means being willing to be alone if that's what's best for the other person. Your people can do this? They can choose to let go of someone they care about? It's one of the hardest things we do. But yes, we can do it. Parents let their children grow up and leave home. People end relationships that aren't working. Sometimes love means saying goodbye. Jake turned to face her again. Zara, I want to make you an offer. A compromise. What kind of compromise? I'll stay here as the liaison between our peoples. I'll work with you, learn from you, spend time with you, but I won't be owned by you. And I won't let our connection stop me from having a normal human life. What does that mean? It means I'll be your friend and your colleague. But if I want to date someone, I will. If I want to get married someday and have a family, I will. And you'll have to find a way to be okay with that. Zara's form became sharp and angular. I do not think I can bear to watch you with another. Then you'll have to learn. Because the alternative is me spending my whole life alone. And you spending yours knowing you caused that loneliness. They stood in silence for several minutes, both looking out at Earth. Finally, Zara spoke. There is something I have not told you about my people. What? We can choose to break our bonds. It is painful and it is permanent, but it can be done. The bonded one becomes empty. They can never bond again. Jake felt his heart sink. Zara, I don't want you to hurt yourself. But you also do not want to live as my prisoner. There has to be another way. Perhaps there is. Zara's form began to change, becoming softer, more translucent. What if, instead of breaking the bond, I learned to share it? I don't understand. What if I stopped seeing you as mine alone? What if I learned to see you as, what is the word? A friend who I care deeply about but who belongs to himself? Could you do that? I do not know. It would go against everything my nature tells me. But your species has taught me that nature is not destiny. You choose to be better than your instincts tell you to be. Jake felt a warm feeling in his chest, but this time it was different. It wasn't the possessive pull he had felt before. It was gentler, more like the feeling he got when he looked at Earth from space. I'm willing to try if you are, he said. There will be difficult times. When you grow close to someone else, I will feel jealous and possessive. When you are happy with another, I will feel lonely. And I'll help you through those feelings. That's what friends do. Friends, Zara repeated. I think I am beginning to understand this concept. As if to test her resolve, the door to the observation deck opened and Kelly Brooks walked in. Sorry, Kelly said when she saw them together. I can come back later. No, it's okay, Jake said quickly, watching Zara carefully. Kelly approached slowly, but she didn't look terrified like before. She looked cautious but not afraid. Hi, Jake, hi. Zara, right? Yes, Zara said, and her voice was strained but polite. Hello, Kelly Brooks. Jake could feel the tension in the air, but it wasn't the overwhelming fear from before. It was more like the awkwardness of meeting someone new. Jake, I wanted to ask if you'd like to have dinner tonight, Kelly said, just as friends. I know things have been weird, but I miss talking to you. Jake looked at Zara. Her form was flickering between solid and transparent, and he could sense her internal struggle. But she didn't speak. I'd like that, Jake said to Kelly. How about 7 o'clock? Great. I'll see you then. Kelly smiled and left. As soon as Kelly was gone, Zara's form became solid again, and Jake could feel her distress. That was unpleasant, she said. I know. But you did it. You let her talk to me without scaring her away. I wanted to. Every instinct told me to make her leave, to keep her away from you. But I remembered what you said about choice. How do you feel now? Sad, jealous, confused, but also proud? Is that the right word? Yes, I think it is. You should be proud. You just did something incredibly difficult. This will not be easy for either of us. No, it won't. But I think we can make it work. 3 months later, Jake sat in the same observation deck, but this time he wasn't alone. Amy Chen was with him, working on a report about human Etherian cultural exchanges. The New Horizon had become the first permanent embassy ship between the two species. Jake, Zara wants to speak with you, Amy said, looking up from her tablet. Tell her I'll be right there. Amy had been working as Jake's assistant in the diplomatic section for 2 months now. The first few weeks had been difficult. Zara's jealousy was still strong, but gradually, things had gotten better. Jake found Zara in the conference room, reviewing trade agreements between their peoples. How are you today? Jake asked. Better. The meditation exercises Dr. Santos taught me are helping with the possessive feelings. That's great news. Jake, I have something to tell you. I have been in contact with other Etherians about our situation. What did they say? They are fascinated. Some think I have become weak by learning human emotions, but others are curious. They want to study what we have learned about choice and friendship. And what do you think? I think we have discovered something new, a way for two very different species to care about each other without losing themselves. Jake smiled. I think you're right. That evening, Jake had dinner with Kelly as planned. It was their third date, and things were going well between them. When he returned to his quarters afterward, he found a small gift waiting for him, a crystal sculpture that looked like 2 stars orbiting each other, never touching but always connected. The note with it was from Zara. Thank you for teaching me that love means letting go, and that letting go doesn't always mean losing what matters most. Your friend always, Zara. Jake set the sculpture on his desk where he could see it every day. It reminded him that some of the most meaningful relationships were the ones where people chose to care about each other, despite the difficulties, where they worked to be better than their instincts told them to be. Outside his window, Earth continued its slow rotation. A blue and white reminder that home was a place where billions of different people found ways to live together, to love each other, and to choose hope over fear. Jake thought about the future, about the life he was building with Kelly, about his friendship with Zara, about the bridge they were building between two very different species. It wasn't the life he had planned when he first joined the New Horizon, but it was a good life. A life built on choice, sacrifice, and the very human belief that understanding was always possible, even when it seemed impossible. As he got ready for bed, Jake could feel Zara's presence in the back of his mind, not possessive or demanding, but warm and comfortable, like knowing a good friend was thinking of you. He had learned that some connections transcend species and some friendships are worth fighting for, even when the fight is against your own nature. Tomorrow,